Good evening and welcome to the NDTV Dialogues, a conversation of ideas. Tonight we look at a concept which is center stage of current political discourse: anarchy. Justified, populist, constitutional, unconstitutional. What actually defines it today? What actually, when we look at democracy, is anarchy actually now part of it, the culture, the language of protest? Joining me on this, Manish Tewari, Ravi Shankar Prasad, Ashutosh and Professor Dipankar Gupta. Professor Gupta, before we go to politics, looking a bit at the philosophy of it, a little bit of anarchy, you said, can go a long way, and the worry is really how much anarchy is actually good. When we actually talk, and you see the editorials or we see the words being thrown around, the Chief Minister saying I'm an anarchist, what do you think defines it, and where are we looking at it in politics today?
Well, I don't think there was anarchy, because the Chief Minister was non-violent in his behavior. He was talking about the rule of law. Now, very often, if you look at the philosophy of anarchism, you'll find that they are against the rule of law. They don't like any, established norm procedure. They like things to be open. In fact, they feel that the state is something that inhibits people from exhibiting themselves. And you even have the Libertine Party in America, who are some people considered to be anarchist. But I don't think this Chief Minister was ideologically an anarchist. What gave that label to him simply was because he took his office to the streets, his sit in and sleep in, as I say, in the streets of Delhi. That's what people thought was anarchic. If that's anarchy, then so be it. I think I would go along with the Chief Minister. But I don't think his position is an anarchic one. There's a man called Edward Albee who said that anarchists are the only people who take democracy seriously.
Let me get those in government. Let me get Mr. Manish Tewari, because you use your words carefully, and you actually said, well, this is constitutional anarchy, as in anarchy against the Constitution of India. Mr. Arvind Kejriwal challenged you on that and said, well, show me where in the Constitution it's written that a Chief Minister can't actually go on a dharna or protest. Wasn't that a strong word to use in that sense? Isn't this kind of protest actually what people have voted for, a change in the current system, and those who can't hear it are in a sense condemned to lose the votes or the faith of the people?
Well, Sonia, anarchy, very, very classically defined, is a state of statelessness. So therefore, you obviously cannot have a state of statelessness, when you are trying to run a state. And you have to make a legitimate distinction between protest and protest, which, to use the word loosely, is anarchic in character. Now, if you go back to protest movements, the Indian National Congress was the original protest movement, which brought independence to India. But after 1947, you didn't have Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru sitting in protest against his own government, or you didn't have Congress chief ministers sitting in protest, or other chief ministers sitting in protest, outside the North Bloc or the South Bloc. You've had opposition governments in this state. You haven't had a spectre of opposition chief ministers, sitting in protest outside the portals of what is the symbols of state establishment. Number two, maybe the Chief Minister of Delhi is correct that the Constitution does not prohibit you from protesting. But then there is the pith and substance, there is the essence of the Constitution. And the essence of the Constitution is that it's a federal-state partnership. And if you have a breakdown of the federal-state partnership, then I'm afraid you run the gauntlet of chaos. For example, I come from a state which is ruled by the opposition. I'm a union minister. I have my own grievances against that state government. Now, if I go and sit on protest outside the state secretariat in Chandigarh and say that it's either my way or the highway, on an issue which is germane, let's say, to my own ministry. For example, I'll give you a specific example. When the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu invoked the law and order remit and decided to ban Vishwarupam. If you look at it constitutionally, this is a subject which falls to the remit of the I&B ministry. It's in the union list. If I would have gone and sat on dharna outside Poise Gardens or outside whatever the Tamil Nadu Secretariat is called, that is not a solution. But the solution is that you try and find a method of surmounting that situation. And the manner in which we surmounted this particular situation is that now you have a new Cinematographic Act. So therefore, all I'm trying to say is that I can understand, I can empathize with protest movements. I mean, after all, what the Chief Minister of Delhi is saying is something which the previous Chief Minister of Delhi has also been saying, that Delhi police should be with them, right? Now, historically, in capitals around the world, Delhi, the police in capitals is with the federal government. So this is not a new issue, but the manner in which, it was possibly articulated, did create a situation whereby, if this is repeated as an example by other chief ministers, will lead to a constitutional breakdown.
Do you agree, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad? Because some observers would say that it's about a new language of democracy which the established political parties are not able to speak in anymore. You've heard, and I'm sure Ashutosh will raise that people have pointed out that when we say anarchy, we talk about the riots of 1984, we talk about the riots of 2002. That for us is anarchy. And in many cases, it's the state governments or governments themselves who are much more anarchist than, say, a protest movement like this.
Well, that debate is quite welcome. But I think here we are discussing this whole issue of anarchy in politics, not in the context of what Mikhail Bakunin stated or Peter Kropotkin stated. As Manish rightly pointed out, they did not recognize any kind of control by human being, by men. Okay. Even Mahatma Gandhi his passive resistance was called anarchist by many British politicians. Coming from my own house of Rajya Sabha, at one point of time, our chair said, "Let us not behave like a federation of anarchists," yes. Which we protested. Yes. That is absolutely, this is, I would say, a very vibrant democratic debate. That's what democracy is about. But Sonia, here we are discussing a very specific issue, namely, a chief minister, for a legitimate or not very legitimate reasons that 2 policemen need to be suspended, trying to sit on a dharna in an area which is prohibited. When he is confronted, he says, "Yes, I am an anarchist." When he is told that 26 January is coming, you must understand that I can go to the extent of even opposing 26 January parade. That is the specific context. Let me tell you, in Indian democracy, there has been a consensus, some of what Manish indicated. When I was Union Minister in Vajpayee government, we were ruled by the great Lalu Prasad in Bihar. I don't want to go into that. I used to have a big tiff on many issues of development. I could have sat on dharna also. But the debate was protest in the media, otherwise, or representation to the Prime Minister, or as the case may be the Chief Minister. I recall one interesting instance. A Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu chose to sit on dharna for some larger issue on the Marina Beach. It was a political statement. A PIL was filed in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court bench observed, can we recommend 356? And that was enough. He left the dharna and went to sit in the CM's office. Indian democracy, Sonia, is now more than 65 years old. Certain rules of the game have been crystallized. You come with an ideology, you come with a policy, you come with a democratic debate, people trust you, they elect you. Once there, govern, deliver. Okay? Protest also. He could have written to the Prime Minister, he could have protested inside the house, he could have got a resolution passed by the Delhi Assembly and taken all the other. But for a Chief Minister to sit on dharna near the Rail Bhavan because denied entry in the South Block before the Home Ministry, I would say is nothing but a kind of anarchy in terms of behavior of an elected Chief Minister. Point number 1. And point number 2, as a student of India's constitution, let me tell you, everything is not written in the constitution. There are certain principles, I would say morals of the constitution. And that moral is, once you are the executive head, exercising executive power under the constitution, which a chief minister is, certain norms of behavior the constitution expects from you. Therefore, it is a matter of some assurance, Sonia, that regardless of the very extreme divide of Indian polity, including regional chief ministers, including extremists who became chief minister as in northeast states, they never resorted to this kind of dharna.
Though I want to actually, I'll come back to you on the larger because it's not really just about the chief minister, it's about the other context which I mentioned as well, which the opposition has been. So we'll come back on that. But just to quote, because of course B.R. Ambedkar himself, the father of our constitution, said that the futility of the grammar of anarchy, when constitutional means are available, you cannot use unconstitutional means. You've heard these arguments. Do you think that what actually happened, even if it was anarchy, what was wrong with it? What's your view on it, Ashutosh?
I don't think that Ambedkar's view was the majority view in the Constituent Assembly as well. See, there are 3-4 points which has to be understood in this context. Firstly, when Arvind Kejriwal said that I'm an anarchist, then there was a reason, because everybody was trying to label and allege him that he is not behaving the way a chief minister should behave. So in that context, he said he doesn't mean that he was literally saying that I'm an anarchist. Secondly, when people are talking about the anarchism, Arvind Kejriwal is an anarchist. The fact is, the classical definition, if you go by anarchist, is what believes in the state of statelessness or the absence of government, or the absence of governance. What has happened here? There was a government. The government was okay, except the government has moved from the four walls of a building to road. And when the first day itself, when it sat on the dharna, the 50 files were cleared. So the work was going on, the governance was happening over there. The problem is that the politics has to be seen the politics normally seen in India is from the conventional viewpoint. That view has to be changed. When there's a fundamental paradigm shift has taken place in Indian politics and in society. People are looking at politicians from a different viewpoint. Arvind Kejriwal and the AAP has given a very unconventional things to the people. That when a chief minister should not be recognized by how many jet plus security guards are with him, or whether he is carrying a beacon on his car or not, either he is wearing a kind of a clothes or not, he is surrounded by kind of people or not. He has broken all those myths, and he said, if you are a chief minister, the chief minister can be like this also. He can live instead in a bungalow to a small three bedroom without any security. Anybody can walk in. So he has demystified. He has demystified what the chief minister should look like. I think the people should understand that here is a chief minister who is breaking all the stereotypes of the politics, and a politician should be, and he is setting new agenda in that sense. What he was trying to do? He was trying to do that the engagement with the people is important. Secondly, here is a serious issue in Delhi, that where the women are not safe. The common citizen in Delhi is feeling threatened and insecure. There was a government for the last 15 years in Delhi led by Congress, and there was a government in center for 10 years led by Congress again. Both of them are talking about, Sheila Dikshit has been talking about, let's have a full statehood to the Delhi. There was a government in Congress government at center. Easily it could have been done. So either this government in Delhi led by Sheila Dikshit was lying to the electorate, or the central government was not cooperating with her. So the just fundamental thing is that if a chief minister wants certain things, will it be honored by the government or not? That's the fundamental. Will the law and order situation in Delhi, will anybody be responsible to the elected government or not? The police, everything is happening. People are looking at him because he's elected chief minister. If he's an elected chief minister, any act of violence or crime happens in Delhi, people look at him because he's the face of the administration. But unfortunately, the law and order is beyond his purview. So that's an important question.
No, I agree, but I actually wanted to broaden it beyond just specifically the chief minister. And that point actually I wanted to bring to you, Professor Gupta, that in a sense, this breaking away from the political mold, Arvind Kejriwal not want to be a typical chief minister. Of course, people have cited the case of Mamta Banerjee and said she did this much earlier. But for a politician today, it's important that he doesn't behave like a politician. It's important for a politician to almost be a protester. Is that the kind of change we're seeing? And how do we make sure that that's actually a change of substance, not just a change of image, or is it 3 bedrooms versus a bungalow, or versus 1 car versus 5?
Well, you see, I've always felt that the Aam Aadmi Party has come to power too early. They were...
They're now contesting 350 seats for the Lok Sabha.
Come on, Dipankar, that's interesting.
I think that, they were priming themselves for a few more years as an outsider of the political system in terms of movements, and exhorting the establishment to yield more room and territory to the people. I think that was a good ambition, but they were catapulted to power because the other sides failed so miserably that they came to power, and they have to take a grip over themselves, and I think it will take some time. It's not that easy. From movement to party is quite a transition. The Congress party that you alluded to had 40 years of practice before independence came, but this didn't even have 40 months of practice. So there is a problem, no doubt about it. So there will be a question of style and substance, both which will have to go conjointly in this particular case. And it is really a task of, political statesmanship. Can they do it or can't they do it? And all depends on how they manage. This is the inflection point, as it were. I remember when Anna Hazare was in his fast, which today most people who were against him then recall with a lot of affection. I'm quite surprised at that. But when he was on fast, parliamentarian after parliamentarian stood up in the parliament and said, who is that man? We are the elected people. Who is that man to challenge us? But you know, as all of us know, the democracy grew and grew and grew simply because there were protests outside. And a good protest added to the richness of democracy.
I actually wanted to bring you in, Ravi Prasad, on this other aspect, that when you talk of anarchy, for us, it also seems anarchy when you see MNS goons attacking toll booth plazas. You hear of 96 cases against Mr. Thackeray, yet he's never arrested for one of them. When you hear hate speeches by, say, Mr. Owaisi, he's arrested for a day and then let off, he's out on bail after a month or two in jail. When you see, for instance, your ally, the Shiv Sena, also earlier, you used to have a very much more burning buses. Various protests, whether student movements of both the Congress and the BJP, have turned into violent protests. Yet we never see the kind of condemnation that we saw of non-violent protests, whether it was of the Anna Hazare movement, whether it was also of Arvind Kejriwal, again, not just specifically about this, but of various movements of, say, when he refused to pay electricity bills and led that movement. At that time also there was much protest. Why is it that non-violent protests attract so much repudiation and condemnation by the politicians and not these kind of protests?
Not the least.
I haven't heard any BJP statement.
Here the point is very simply a chief minister sitting on dharna. Therefore you have called us here.
But you've had a Joy Mukherjee sit in West Bengal against his own minister Jyoti Basu.
Just give me some time.
Yes.
Let me come to a larger issue, this whole case of simplicity being overstated. Let me clarify. He talked about Mamata Banerjee. With the case of Tripura Chief Minister, Nipin Chakravarti, very simple man, never flaunting his simplicity. In the case of Manohar Parrikar and IIT from Mumbai, in great simplicity. You have many other Congress leaders earlier who have been very simple socialist leaders. Therefore, let us not emphasize this case of simplicity. That's the point number one. It is a part of Indian democracy. Those who flaunt, they do so at their own peril. That's the first thing I'd like to. This complete anti-politician mood. Politicians of the country have done a lot of shame. But Sonia, let the country not forget, including us. It is they who govern. They become presidents, they become prime ministers, they become finance minister, they become defense minister. The entire country's security to finance to constitutional status is handled by them. We have to improve upon that. Therefore, this always politician bashing, all those who are corrupt, those who do something wrong needs to be punished. Voters do punish them, let law also punish them. But this anti-politician mood brings some kind of pain to us who right from our student days have tried to live with certain morals which we learn at the feet of Jayaprakash Narayan, oppose the emergency. That pains us. Now thirdly, Mr. Dipankar Gupta is absolutely right. The right to protest is integral. Violent or non-violent is a different category altogether. Even in case of Maoism, we have said that let's talk. In case of extremism in Northeast. But there are a lot of areas of disagreement between a state and a center. And I'm sorry for making this point, the way Mr. Tewari's government have governed, a lot of state governments of BJP or BJD or others have a cause for grievance. Legitimate or not that legitimate? Should they come to Rashtrapati Bhavan and sit on dharna? Any state is demanding a special status. Some are having a grievance about non-allotment of food grains. Others are saying my projects are not being cleared. Some are saying that we are not being given the coal mines to start power projects. Should they come and have dharna before the Prime Minister? That is the question. And therefore, this whole issue of debate has come about. Therefore, in that way, Mr. Kejriwal's conduct on that day cannot be condoned. You want to have an anarchy debate or not, whether he was an anarchist or not, is a different question altogether. We can give a different label. But once you have been elected, Mr. Kejriwal, please govern, please deliver. But in whatever be the nature of debate, a chief minister cannot go and sit on dharna against the government of India or against his own government or anyone. That behavior, I'm sorry to say, whatever be the compelling circumstance or whatever be the provocation. Otherwise, if Mr. Kejriwal says, I am entitled, I am doing a new politics, let Mr. Kejriwal or Ashutosh answer this. If 10 chief ministers every month start sitting on dharna in Delhi, what will happen to India?
Go ahead, Ashutosh.
See, the question is not whether Arvind Kejriwal is sitting on dharna or not. The question also is not that 10 chief ministers will come to Delhi and sit on dharna, and if it happens, then what will happen to the Indian constitution, Indian democracy and the governance. The question today is We are not against politics. We are against the kind of politics which has been pursued in this country. People are not unhappy with politics. People are unhappy with the kind of politics, kind of politicians. And Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, Manish Tewari belongs to a different kind of politics. People are not unhappy with them. People are unhappy with their colleagues who had no respect for law, who are just looking for the privileges, who doesn't want to engage with the people. They are not addressing the interest of the people. They hardly go to their constituencies. Once they are elected, after 5 years they go. Where do the people will go? In this country, when I can tell you, there has been a privileged class since independence for whom there is no rule of law. They are not governed by anything. They are a class among themselves.
No,
so
when
that kind of
no, we'll come to that, but his specific question he made, that what would you do if 10 chief ministers came and sat in a dharna here? Does Mr. Kejriwal accept that perhaps the dharna was a mistake because he called it off in just 2 days? Does he accept that this is not something he would do again in the near future?
See, the answer to that question is very simple. Why the situation has come to this level that the chief minister has to sit on dharna? I think that's a bigger question we have to answer. That's a bigger. Unfortunately, people are not answering to that question. Why the 10 chief minister will be compelled to come to Delhi and sit on dharna? Has the situation come to that level? I think situation is moving to that level if politics and the politicians in this country don't improve their conduct. And that is why what Professor Dipankar Gupta was saying, that they came so fast. Even we were surprised the kind of response we are getting. Why we are getting this response? Because people are unhappy with the kind of politics which is pursued in this country, and that is why we are getting overwhelming support. You can imagine in years back when we formed the party, nobody has given us any due. Nobody thought about it. Even we did not think that we can come so close to forming a government.
But you lost some support after that dharna. You had various NRIs who had supported you, donated you. You saw your online donations dropping. You did lose some support. It's support when you're in opposition and support when you're in government is a different thing.
See, sometimes people do agree with your kind of thing. Sometimes people do not agree with that. But if I today get into that logic, today I go into that argument that this class of people are supporting it and that class of people are not supporting, I think that's not the debate at all. The dialogue today is why the establishment is feeling so shaken and scared. Why Arvind Kejriwal and his team is getting support, so overwhelming support in Delhi. Why they reached 28 seats without having an infrastructure, a resource mobilization, without even experienced politicians, no booth level management, nothing, and still we managed to have 28 seats. There is something which is pricking the conscience of the people. I think if we are not willing to answer that question, it is what that is pricking the conscience of the people. I think we will be living in some other world, not this. I think that needs to be addressed here. And the problem is people are very, very unhappy with the arrogance of power, erosion of morality in politics, and they think they are powerful, they can do anything. People are not going to take that.